Interesting development here. Dillian Whyte has hired Dave Coldwell to his corner team for this Alexander Povetkin fight. Now, interestingly, he says that his new trainer, Xavier Miller, was the one who decided to make this move. It wasn't Dillian himself, again, according to what Dillian has said, but it was Xavier Miller who requested that they get Dave Coldwell on board as a second pair of eyes. Now, there's nothing unusual about having a trainer and an assistant coach and all that kind of stuff. There's nothing unusual about that. I mean, even with Tyson Fury, he's got Javon Sugar Hill and he's got Andy Lee, right? So there's a long, long history of that kind of thing in boxing. However, given the fact that Xavier Miller is inexperienced at this type of level, it does make you wonder about whether he's unsure of himself. And that's why he's bringing in the likes of Dave Coldwell. Now, if he is unsure of himself, is Dillian Whyte picking up on that? Does Dillian Whyte feel like, yeah, this guy is maybe a bit nervous and he's feeling the pressure because if it all goes wrong, they're going to blame Xavier Miller, right? Is that getting to him a little bit? I mean, it kind of reminds me even of when Tyson Fury fought Deontay Wilder the first time, and they brought in Ricky Hatton and Freddie Roach to back up Ben Davison, who is inexperienced. So it kind of reminds you of that. But the bottom line is, even if Xavier Miller is, a little unsure of himself, if bringing Dave Coldwell in works and gives them what they need, then it's all good. At the end of the day, everybody starts out as inexperienced. Whatever you're doing in life, if you're a boxing coach, there's a time you come in and you don't have much experience and you have to build your experience up. Okay? So there's no crime in being inexperienced. At some stage, you have to cross over from being an inexperienced coach to an experienced coach. You have to go through that process. And during that process, if you do certain things like bring more experienced coaches in to help you, then it is what it is. We'll see on Saturday night how this pans out. And, it's just interesting that they're bringing Dave Coldwell in on such short notice. Perhaps he's been consulting for them or whatever, or helping out behind the scenes before they've announced it for some weeks. I don't know. But the way it's been presented to us, it appears as though just in the past couple days, they've brought Dave Coldwell into the camp. So again, that's a pretty interesting development. And to be honest with you, I'd like to see Dave Coldwell stay with Dillian Whyte long term, because I think Dave Coldwell is an underrated trainer. I know some people criticize Dave Coldwell and they look at some of the fighters he's had and they say, oh, he wasn't successful with this guy. He wasn't successful with that guy. I get that. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how great a trainer you are. If you don't have the level of talent in the fighter, then that fighter is not going to achieve great things. You have to have the requisite talent. Yeah, you can't, I was going to use a certain analogy. I won't use it here, but you can't turn water into wine, basically. Yeah. As a coach. You can only do but so much. You are constrained and limited by the innate abilities that the fighter has. You can't take, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a fighter here without being disrespectful. Peter Buckley, who was a long-term, long-running journeyman in the UK, had hundreds of fights. You couldn't take Peter Buckley and turn him into Marco Antonio Barrera. I don't care what type of ability you have as a trainer. It's just not going to happen. Okay? And so I think people are a little bit harsh on Dave Coldwell with some of the fighters that he hasn't worked out with. Some of his fighters have lost and all that kind of stuff. Look at the fighters he's been successful with, like Tony Bellew. I think he did very well with Bellew. And actually, I think that Dave Coldwell was doing well with Derek Chisora. I saw certain technical changes in Derek Chisora that I liked under Dave Coldwell. To me, it's unfortunate that him and Dave have parted ways. So now that he's with Dillian Whyte, I think as a secondary coach, Coldwell's a good addition to the team. Now, you're not you're probably not going to see much of Coldwell's influence or input in this fight because, again, apparently he's only been with him for a few days. But going forward, assuming Dillian Whyte gets past Povetkin, and by the way, I wouldn't bet a substantial amount of money on Dillian Whyte winning the fight. I think making him favorite is the right thing to do, but I think this is very dangerous. And I'm anticipating Dillian Whyte getting hurt in this fight, even if he goes on to win. But assuming he goes on to win, I think having Dave Coldwell there as an assistant coach is a good move. So anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. And by the way, Coldwell being assistant coach to Dillian Whyte, I'm not sure how viable that is in the long term because Coldwell is very tied to his gym up there in Yorkshire, and he doesn't apparently like to travel much. He likes fighters to come to him rather than him go to the fighters. Now, in this situation right now, I believe Dave Coldwell already is part of the bubble, Matchroom Fight Camp. Correct me if I'm wrong. So in this situation, it's a convenience to have Dave Coldwell there, right? But moving forward long term, if Dave Coldwell still doesn't like to be away from his family and to be away from his gym, then it may not be viable, long term, Dave Coldwell and Dillian Whyte. So let's see what happens. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below about this particular pairing of Dave Coldwell and Dillian Whyte. Do you think it smacks of Xavier Miller being unsure of himself? Or do you think it's just a sensible move? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. It's happening. I'm out.